In the Middle East, there is a city, beloved and desired beyond measure. Many believed it was the center of the world. Jerusalem. Behind the Footsteps of Jesus, a 14-episode series to deepen in the life of the Messiah and the events related to his death.
Today we're at Mount Zion, at the exit of the Gate of Zion at the southeast part of the city. It's a 765-meter hill found on the southeast portion of the old city of Jerusalem. This area was inside the walls of Jerusalem during Jesus' lifetime, but today it's found outside of the walls of Jerusalem, and it's the highest hill in the southeast part of the city. Let's go and discover Mount Zion.
According to some biblical references, it is said that Mount Zion was in another place. How can we clarify this? Let's begin by saying that the answer to this question may be related to two issues. The first is of a linguistic nature, and the second is geographical. Some scholars discuss two similar terms, Zion and Sion. Linguistically, they are not equal, but it may indicate as a terminological variation to the same geographical point or two different points. For example, it could be Zion by the hills in the geographic area of Jerusalem and Sion in another area of Israel, such as Mount Hermon. But in reference to the geographic area of Jerusalem, where we are at now, among the diverse opinions, some deviating, but some also based on the sacred scriptures, we can identify three main geographical points of Mount Zion. The first time we find Zion in the scriptures is in 1 Chronicles chapter 11, verses 4 and 5. And David and all Israel went to Jerusalem, which is Jebus, where the Jebusites were, inhabitants of the land. And the inhabitants of Jebus said to David, Thou shalt not come hither. Nevertheless, David took the castle of Zion, which is the city of David. Here we see that the castle which David took, Jebus, also called the city of David, was called the castle of Zion. Secondly, the place where the first temple of Solomon was built was also called Mount Zion. For this reason, in Psalm 132 verse 13 we read, For the Lord hath chosen Zion, he has desired it for his habitation. The third application is given to the hill on the west side of the city of Jerusalem. This area was already walled during the time of the first temple and during the reconstruction of the walls by Nehemiah. Josephus, a historian from the 1st century, mentions the city of the king, referring to the western hill of Jerusalem, which is called Zion today. It can be said that geographically, these locations are more or less coincidental and do not change the general sense of Mount Zion's position and its relevance to Israel. The term Zion, in relation to the geographical area of Jerusalem, has certainly been transformed by extensions and over time into a more inclusive place. But more than anything else, it has figuratively or metaphorically become the representation of Israel itself, or the place of the manifestation of God, of his presence, of his dwelling place, concurring with the same city of Jerusalem.
The root of the word Zion is believed to come from the Hebrew word Sion, which means castle. Others associated with the Arabic word sana, which means protection or strength, or the Arabic word sai, which means to ascend to the highest. Jerusalem was a fortress, a protection for God's people. God wanted this place to be safe under his care and his protection. He also wanted it to be a castle where glory would be given to God. The Lord wants to take us to the highest of places, to the heavenly Zion, to the true Jerusalem, where we will dwell with him for all of eternity. 2 Chronicles chapter 1 verse 4 tells us, "But the ark of God had David brought up from Kiriath Jearim to the place which David had prepared for it, for he had pitched a tent for it at Jerusalem." Jewish tradition says that this tent was located in the place that is now known as Mount Zion, which would be this place.
Right now, we find ourselves in the place that, according to tradition, is known as David's tomb, or the place where the Ark of the Covenant was kept by David until Solomon's temple was built. Most historians and archaeologists doubt that this is the true place of David's tomb. The belief began in the 12th century, but the legitimacy of the place has been questioned more than once. Others place the true location of the tomb in the city of Bethlehem, also called the City of David. Josephus, the historian, mentions that Herod the Great looked for David's tomb, but discovered that others had already searched for it before him. Yes, human remains have been found beneath this place, considering it a possible ancient tomb. This place, known as David's tomb, contains a very old sarcophagus. But the date of this sarcophagus, or who it really belonged to, is unknown. Another place exists north of Jerusalem, which is called the Tomb of the Kings. It is a colossal place with a large entrance and a large courtyard in front of the tomb that had places for multiple sarcophaguses. It has left the impression that it is a tomb for the kings and perhaps for David's family, but presently, the tombs have been identified to date from the 1st century and generally recognized as the resting place of the family of Queen Helena of Adiabene. Archaeologists are still searching for David's tomb. In Peter's first dialogue in Jerusalem, he referred to David's tomb. In Acts chapter 2, verse 29, we read, "Men and brethren, let me freely speak unto you of the patriarch David, that he is both dead and buried, and his sepulchre is with us unto this day." According to this biblical statement, we can believe that David's tomb can be found somewhere in Jerusalem. According to some evidence, it seems that in the early centuries, 7 synagogues were located in this area of Mount Zion, but were subsequently destroyed later. It was the first place recovered by the Israeli army in 1948. A tunnel linked Mount Zion to a Jewish neighborhood in the Hinnom Valley, the southern part of Jerusalem. Due to the difficulty of transiting through this tunnel, a rail cable was later built, which joined the current hotel of Mount Zion with the hospital Eye of John. This rail cable had the capacity of carrying 250 kilos and was used at night to avoid being recognized. It was through here that the food was transported and the wounded evacuated.
Israel has fought, and many have died in the struggle to be able to reconquer the city of Jerusalem, the earthly Zion. The prophecy said that, "For out of Zion shall go forth he who will teach the law, the word, and the way." Isaiah chapter 2 verse 3 says, "Many people shall go and say, Come ye, and let us go up to the mountain of the Lord, to the house of the God of Jacob, and he will teach us of his ways, and we will walk in his paths. For out of Zion shall go forth the law and the word of the Lord from Jerusalem." The sad thing is that Jesus came into this world, walked the streets of Jerusalem, walked the ways of Zion, dedicated his life to teach the true way to God, to give hope through the word, to give a message of peace, to teach the law of love. But in the end, his own people rejected him. His own people crucified him. Zechariah's prophecy was fulfilled. It's found in Zechariah chapter 9, verse 9, saying, "Rejoice greatly, O daughter of Zion. Shout, O daughter of Jerusalem. Behold, thy king cometh unto thee. He is just, and having salvation, lowly, and riding upon an ass, and upon a colt, the foal of an ass." Although he was hailed in Jerusalem as king, days later they cried, "Crucify him." Jesus did not remain in the tomb. there's still another prophecy for Zion. In Joel chapter 3 verses 16 to 17, it says, "The Lord also shall roar out of Zion, and utter his voice from Jerusalem, and the heavens and the earth shall shake, and the Lord will be the hope of his people, and the strength of the children of Israel. So shall ye know that I am the Lord your God, dwelling in Jerusalem, my holy mountain. Then shall Jerusalem be holy, and there shall no strangers pass through any more." On a day very soon, Jesus will come in glory to establish his glorious and eternal kingdom on Mount Zion. No stranger will be there, for Jesus will reign with his children for eternity. Hebrews chapter 12 verse 22 also says, "But ye are come unto Mount Zion, and unto the city of the living God, the heavenly Jerusalem, and to an innumerable company of angels." If we want to be with God forever in the New Jerusalem, in Mount Zion, then our struggle is not for the earthly city of Jerusalem. We must approach Mount Zion today through faith, to the heavenly sanctuary, and become reconciled with God. Jesus Christ intercedes for us before the Father. He shows the Father the scars on his hands and his feet, which bear the mark of his experience on the earthly Jerusalem. He will carry them forever as a token of his love for us, his children.